So my dishwasher's been giving me problems, and what seems to be the issue is the I think it's called the sump pump, I believe is what they call this, but it's basically this pump motor down here at the bottom. This is just the whole assembly, about $120 off Amazon through a third-party seller. But what I was basically noticing is all the buttons, everything works as normal when you turn on the dishwasher, but it would basically click after it filled with water. It wouldn't actually start running. And there's different ways to open and close it to try to make it run, and it seems like what that was about the jarring that motor that's down there in the bottom. So down inside here, sorry, it's a little dark here, I'll make it a little brighter. Down inside there, that's the sump pump assembly, and it seems like that is where it intakes the water to spray out of both the bottom and the top jets with little spinning arms. And that pump just seizes out due to issues with the bearings, these graphite bearings, and then it doesn't spin and doesn't pump the water. Everything else seems to work fine, the panel, everything else, and you basically can tell because you don't hear it running even though it's filled with water, and it'll fill and drain over and over again, and it never actually runs unless you kind of open and close it and kind of shake the thing, which is causing jarring to that motor. Another symptom, as you can see, it's not, so like down here, there's like detergent residue. It's not clean anymore. And the last few times I've run this, I've actually had to kind of nanny it and like wait around when it stops, when I hear the clicks with a relay. Like you'll literally hear, I'll have this running and you'll hear clicking, but it's not actually cleaning the dishes. I'll open and close it, and that sometimes will cause it to like actually jolt itself to start running again. But you got to basically watch it, and even after that, it will still be dirty. Sorry, not dirty, but when it says it's clean, the dishes will have like residue of detergent on it because it didn't rinse them all the times. So I'm gonna go and put this guy in. I understand you can find some sellers who have. Some sellers, claim you can just get the motor, and I've seen just some of these, but then you got to take this apart a little bit and, get a little hose clamp in there, and I didn't really want to deal with it. So instead, I just found this assembly. It's the right part for this KitchenAid Whirlpool dishwasher, and, I guess the pump motor itself is about $60, and then this whole assembly was like 120, like I was saying, but I think it will be worth it to get it fixed correctly. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull this dishwasher out and basically take this sump pump out and move over the wiring and the actual drain pump that is what drains the water out into the sink. So before I take this out, I went ahead and I took the little screen, the filter, and the sprayer off the bottom. I obviously took the lower rack out first, and then I used paper towel and a little bowl to basically kind of suck the water, transfer it out of the basin, the sump, into a cup, just so there's less water in there. And I'm going to disconnect this little pipe here. That way, when I have this on its side and I'm working on the bottom of it, it's basically all ready to pop out. So next is pulling out the dishwasher, and thankfully I've already removed this when I was inspecting the bottom. And both the water line and the Romex is long enough, and I have to disconnect the drain for the sink from the dishwasher, from the drain pump, but the Romex and the water line are long enough that I can actually pull it out completely and set it on its side without having to disconnect those, so it's going to save me some time. Alright, so the dishwasher is out, and it's over on its side. I have it on a towel and our kind of mat below the sink for when we're doing dishes. So I have to transfer this piece of like cement off that and put it onto this one. I've seen a video about that already. And then I got to obviously move the wiring, and I need to disconnect both that water line for the drain pump and the pump itself and connect them to this. And then it's just moving over the wiring basically. Should be pretty straightforward. So I'm going to take a picture of it before, kind of make note of all the plugs, and then I'll transfer everything over. Well, I'll unplug everything, take the sump out and then transfer everything over. All right, sump pumps out, the whole basin or whatever. You can see through the bottom of the towel. Here is the new one again, and here are there's the drain pump and then this sensor that switches over, and then eventually that piece of cement, and then here's the old one. I'm gonna take it apart later and maybe look inside the motor, but that's the faulty part right there. And that's a little dark right there. So now I'm going to kind of do the reverse and go ahead and install this basin, reconnect everything. I'm going to wet this part real quick to kind of make it slip in a little bit easier. They talk about water or soap. I think I'll just try some water and then kind of just reassemble in backwards. All right, almost done. So this is the new sump pump assembly with the new motor. Reinstalled the old drain motor. Reinstalled this old sensor. About to put back on the piece of cement, the balance weight. So pressing it in, I was able to get these sides down for those two retainer clip things, but this one was really a challenge. I had to set it back on its correct way up and kind of really push down in there, but it's hard because you're kind of leaned inside the dishwasher because the door's open. But I was able to finally push it down enough that I was able to lock that one, so all of them are locked. Reassembled everything, had to put this back on to hold that line. Gonna double check all the wiring, put the cement thing back on, and then I do the drain last because this drain tube's not that long, like the Romex and the water line. Speaking of which, if you want to do this the safe way, you disconnect the power, but it appears from my fuse box there's not a separate circuit for just this dishwasher. It's just on the kitchen circuit. And I'm doing this at night and didn't want to have only flashlights. I wanted to have the kitchen lights. So I had to kind of just be careful not to turn the dishwasher on. And I assume all these little components are running on lower DC voltage, not the 120 AC. Could be a false assumption, but tried to not touch anything when I was disconnecting the cables. So yeah, gonna finish up these last few steps, connect the drain, or slide it back in, connect the drain, kind of double check everything, and then I guess remount it. I have to raise it with those little feet here, and then there's a couple screws that hold it on to the underside of the counter, and then I guess I'll at least run like a quick cycle just to make sure it's filling and draining as expected, and that the wash motor works immediately instead of the relay just clicking and nothing happening. Well, it's fixed. I didn't finish recording the last bit because I just want to get this done, but obviously I just reinstalled everything like I mentioned, put the screen and the filter and the bottom sprayer arm back inside, remounted the two screws up here, and then had to lift up with these two legs. And I actually did a rinse only run real quickly just to make sure there was no leaks underneath, and I had the flashlight under here kind of seeing what was going on, and I didn't see any leaks, so I canceled that, which did a drain, tested the drain pump, everything worked. That was just removed and installed, so that shouldn't have been a problem. And then I just threw a few dishes in that I had just sitting around, and I'm doing a light load, but it immediately started up like it used to. So that was it. I actually didn't realize it's supposed to start running the washing like sprayers before it even stops filling with water. And I didn't even realize that because it's for so long now. It always stops filling and then it just goes click and nothing happens, and you open the door and close it and jar it, and enough times it'll start running. So I have a feeling this load will be good, and then obviously I'll have to use dishes for another day or two and fill it up with a bunch of dirty dishes and make sure it all runs. But it looks like it's solved. So it would have been faster if I wasn't stopping to take some pictures and video clips. But I'd say 2 hours for just kind of going slow, and I was doing videos and stuff. And like I said, I think the part was 120 or 150, I forget. from well, third-party seller on Amazon for the whole sump pump basin with the motor. So I have my dishwasher back in operation. Nice. So I realize I need to show you guys the issue so you can see that bearing inside there, and this light, it's kind of hard to show it, but it's hard to see, but it is a little, it's, you know, it's worn. Let's see if I can get it to focus on that. Let's try this. So it is worn out, but it's hard to see that one, but this one we can see a little bit better. So this one you can see is like not, let's see if it'll focus on this one. It's not perfectly circular anymore, it's like oblong, and you could basically tell because it doesn't, it's not on here like how it should be. So it's kind of loose. Instead of it just spinning freely, it can rock back and forth like way too much. Let me see if I can get in close. So it should just be able to spin on this bearing, but as everybody else is showing, it's worn through the bearing like crazy, and it's basically bouncing and apparently gets stuck on the sides and inside of the motor. And if you're curious, I knew I was going to throw this away, so I didn't really care. I'm just going to turn this light off. I'll go to low. So let me turn this up. Was just curious because I saw these clips you could take this off, and you know you can't get it out, but it destroys it. It pulls some of these pins out from inside it. Get up close to those. So obviously this is destroyed, but if you're just curious, I was thinking maybe you could get into this, but it's sealed. You'd have to like drill a hole in it, which you wouldn't want to do. And I'm not sure if this is like a speed sensor or something inside here, but you can't take this off without breaking it. But I was going to trash this anyway because I bought the whole new sump pump, which you hear running in the background. The dishwasher is working as expected. But just like everybody, kind of said, this is what was broken. What's kind of interesting that it didn't fail is if you look inside here. Let me get the light on this. So this is like all destroyed inside. Let's see if I can get in on that. Whoops. It was still screwed onto that thread, but if you look, a lot of it's broken off. So I wonder if look at that. I don't know if you can see that well in the light. But that was gonna, I feel like this was it's barely, there's like only a few threads left, and I don't know where the part is, like the piece that wore out of there is. There wasn't anything in here, so it's probably on the edge of just failing altogether. But I should have turned, well no, I guess I couldn't turn the motor because I didn't take the other one apart, but it kind of like would spin and like lock spin, and I'm not sure if that's how it's supposed to be. This is the pump impeller. So, water is being pushed through this like almost like one of those blower fans, like the ones you get at Costco that just direct air like on a flat stream. Same concept. So yeah, as everybody else on YouTube has found, that was the culprit. That was why that's why it failed. But it's working now, so I got a dishwasher again that's going to clean my dishes properly instead of being a total piece of junk. So, later.